Welcome to the WorkJoy Jam podcast. I'm your host, Beth Stallwood, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Zoe Hill. Zoe is the Operations Director of coffee organisation Paddy and Scott's. And we talk about her career, some of the challenges that she's been through, both personally and professionally, and how she's now really focused on the culture of the organisation, the people, and how she's getting her work joy right now through some purpose-led activities. I hope you enjoy this episode. I know I did. Welcome to the WorkJoy Jam, and today I am delighted to be joined by the wonderful Zoe Hill. But rather than me introduce Zoe, I'm going to hand over to you. Could you tell us a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi Beth, very, very excited to be here and speaking to you today about all things WorkJoy. I'm Zoe Hill, I'm 38 and I'm an Operations Director at Paddy and Scott's Coffee.
Love that. And I am going to go into more of these details. And I understand I sound a little bit like Cilla Black on Blind Date when I ask kind of who you are and what you do. And that also ages me as well in terms of where we're at, because there'll be a lot of people listening to this going, who is Cilla Black and what is Blind Date? But
I know what she's saying. Me too, Beth. I'm not happy
what I would love to do is to, first of all, Zoe, explore a little bit about your career and the journey you took to become an operations director, because it's one of those things where, I don't know about you, but the term operations director can mean 1,000,001 different things. And I imagine there's 3,000,001 different things in your job that you're doing right now. But tell us a little about your career journey and then what you do in your role right now.
Of course. I think I probably didn't have the most typical of career journeys in getting to become Operations Director at Paddy and Scott's. I started with Paddy and Scott's in 2014, and I had worked through quite a few jobs, didn't really know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I didn't do my degree at university. I dropped out after a year. I always felt a massive amount of shame about that as I was getting older, but I don't anymore. I'm actually quite proud of it. And I worked through various different jobs at Paddy and Scott's. I started off literally a customer service receptionist, speaking to all of our customers, and loved it. After about a year or so, I then went into becoming an account director. I also worked on the coffee machinery side and the servicing. And then I went into operations management. And that is kind of, I think, where I kind of found my true love, if you like. I just like everything about business, just how it all runs, how it all operates, and people really excite me. I think I found my work joy. I found my love in operations. I think because it is so varied and it's not just specific. Every day is different. I really enjoy it. And making director was massive for me because I think it's not something that I ever thought would be in my career path. I come from a very proud working class background, and I've always been a grafter. That's always been very important in my world. But I think when I was younger I probably put more limits on myself than I ever do now. So becoming director was a really proud moment for me. It came on the back of a kind of really poignant part of my life, because I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2018 at the age of 34, which sounds very odd, but it's actually the same year that I've managed to become operations director at Paddy and Scott's. So a lot of things fell into place, and then obviously in 2019 we hit the pandemic, which was another massive time of growth and rebuilding. But yeah.
Oh, I've got so many questions to ask you about the kind of whole career. And if it's okay, I'm just going to dive in and ask some of these questions. And first of all, thank you for being so open about your career and kind of the things that happened in your life and the kind of the challenges as well, because it's not always all perfect, is it? We don't always have this big plan around careers. And sometimes we don't know what we want until we get there and find out a little bit more. But the first, I'm going to reverse back quite a few years, because I'm really interested in what you said about dropping out of university and feeling some shame around that. And now having been able to kind of move past that, I work with a lot of people who either dropped out of university or didn't go and feel this sense of like they're lacking something, even though they've had these like amazing careers and done brilliant things with their lives. And there's something for me around, actually, we've created this norm which doesn't need to be there. We don't all need to go to university. It's not the only thing that will get us experience and great careers. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that journey you went on, from maybe feeling some shame to feeling great about where you're at.
Yeah, I think back then, I mean, like I said, my parents they're from the north and they moved down to Suffolk for better opportunities. And my dad was so proud when I applied for university to do my business degree. You know, I would have been the first in the family to go to university. Well, I was the first, but so I think the day that I said, Dad, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't excite me. It's just not for me. You know, that was a really hard day. That was a really hard day in my sort of past. But now, you know, I've achieved more than I ever thought I could, and my dad's incredibly proud of me. And I think there's this pressure on kids to have to go to university and, you know, make their parents proud, or, you know, you can't not go to university because otherwise you're not going to get too far in life. And I'm so proud that I can sit here now as a director of a successful company and say, well, I didn't go and I've done all right.
Yeah, more than all right.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really proud of that actually now, and it'll be the first thing I mention rather than the thing I hide behind.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, and the pressure versus what you want to do. And it sounds like to me you had a big knowing that wasn't your pathway. Like you just knew it's not the thing for me.
Yeah, it's kind of like I always enjoyed school. You know, I was one of those students that tried to have the fine balance between working hard and trying to sort of be cool.
Oh,
you know, I think everyone tries to find that balance at school. So, you know, I kind of scraped through. I did pretty well. Could I have done better? Probably. But did I have fun while I was there? Yes, I did. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one.
I never made it to anywhere near cool, so you are way
beyond me. I didn't make it, Beth. I just tried.
Yeah. I gave up trying because there was no way it was ever going to happen for me. Yeah, but I think this is really interesting. Like, you are the operations director. You've made it to kind of that point in your career where people who did things like business degrees want to get to, and you've done it without having to do that, and you found your own route through life. And I love the story, and it's such a great one, about starting in that kind of customer service role and then moving through and upwards through the organization. I'd love to know, what were some of the things that you did that helped you on that journey through the organization?
Oh, that's a good question. To be honest, it has to be, I can't discount the graft. Yeah. You know, and also actually the yearning to learn. So I didn't just kind of do the customer service role and come in at 9 and leave at 5 and just do what I needed to do. I immediately took that job and wanted to make it better. And I didn't realise, I suppose, that I kind of presumed everyone had that instinct. Well, everyone has that, surely. And it's only as you actually realise and you go through life that they actually really don't. So, you know, I took every job within the company and wanted to make it better and look at the ways that could be done, either via process or, you know, how we did things. And I took a real thrill from improving process, which sounds really sad, Beth, I know, but, you know, it's operations, eh? But yeah, and that's how I kind of did it. I just took each job and looked at it and thought, well, actually, I think we could probably do that a little bit better. And I worked with some brilliant people who really believed in me. I've had some great managers over the years who've like nurtured that and also teased it out of me and made me realise that it doesn't have to just sit within that job, and that's really important.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting as well, isn't it? We all have things inside of us and kind of gifts inside of us that we think everyone else has as well, because they're just part of who we are. So they feel quite normal to us. And then you suddenly realize, oh, but not everyone does think like this. And my special thing is, and you know, that whole doesn't sound very exciting part of it. Actually, in the operations world, making things better is like 90-something% of your job.
Exactly.
So it kind of fits. And this is where like what you're good at, what you enjoy, bringing it together with the job can create that work joy.
Yeah, it gets the results as well, because if you enjoy it, you literally wake up and you want to look at things, a way to do things better. You it's really is the difference between the results as well. I think if you
Yeah,
believe in it and you love it, you will get the results.
definitely. And also, for me, what your story also tells is the power of having great people around you who support, nurture, engage, and want you to do really well.
Oh, I cannot stress enough to everyone listening that mentors and champions,
Mm,
everyone needs them, whether they're the same person or not. My husband was my champion, probably from the age of
yeah,
about 25 to 35. He still is, don't get me wrong, but when I really needed it, when I really needed that confidence boost, he was the person who made me believe that I could do anything. And now John, our CEO at Paddy and Scott's, he's great. He really is. He will make me believe that I can do whatever. There's no boundaries as to where we can go with it or what we can do, and we're more than capable of doing it. Mentors and champions, everyone needs them.
yeah. So seek out the people who really believe in you and
Yeah.
allow them to help you.
Yeah, and not even just in a superficial way, because I've got lots of people, lucky enough to have lots of family and friends that believe in me, but really nurture it and tease
Yeah.
it out of you, and that's the difference.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes even challenge you and put you in those uncomfortable positions where you are doing something new or something different and kind of pressing up against your outside your comfort zone and helping you to practically do some of those things rather than just saying, "Yay, you're really great at everything."
I mean, the irony that I'm sat here doing a podcast with you, Beth, is not lost on me. I mean, yeah, this is me firmly out of my comfort zone. Not speaking to wonderful people such as yourself, of course, but just the whole, I don't know, putting myself out there. I've always kind of struggled with that. And John has certainly been in the last few years my kind of champion in that direction to push me and take me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. And how wonderful to have you here. And I'm so glad he's encouraged you to do it because your story is amazing. Let's go to a difficult bit of your story now. And I think really interesting when you were talking about the kind of the year you made it to the operations director role was also the year that you unfortunately found out you had breast cancer at a really young age. And that must have been terrifying. And like, gosh, what a challenging situation to go through. And are you able to tell us a little bit more about that situation and how you worked through it?
Of course, yeah, of course. I will talk to anyone who I will bore everyone who will listen, Beth, because mainly because I want everyone to check for lumps and bumps
Yeah.
as regularly as they can. And if this podcast and someone listening to me today and hears the story and it's the difference between them being, diagnosed early, it really is the difference between a good outcome or not.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was 34 and I was at work. Funnily enough, I was away with work and in a hotel room in Manchester, and just got out of the shower and felt a lump where one should not be, and did the classic that no one should do, but we all do it anyway. We go on Google,
Oh, yeah.
and there was the initial. To be honest, initially I was like, well, I'm 34, so this is clearly not anything other than a cyst or just some weird little lump that I found. But there was still a kind of a little bit of a pit in my stomach,
Mm.
because I suppose there would be. But yeah, so anyway, got myself home, got myself a doctor's appointment, and they were great. They're very quick at referring you when there's anything like that, even though they've also put your mind at ease and also said to me, you're 34, the chances of this happening of it being anything that we need to worry about is very slim. 4% of women are diagnosed under the age of 40 with breast cancer, so it is quite rare. So anyway, but 2 weeks, I was that chilled about it. I went on holiday for 2 weeks to Norway on a lovely cruise with my husband.
Lovely.
I even put off the hospital appointment by a few days because I was still on my holidays, Beth. Um, but then we came back and we went to the hospital, and yeah, they told me I had grade 3 invasive ductal carcinoma, and I had to do something about it. Initially, I was told that it would potentially just be some radiotherapy and a operation, a little lumpectomy, but that also then the little lump got sent to America for testing, and it was found that it was actually really rather aggressive. So they wanted to do the full sweep and have me do some chemotherapy as well and some extra radiotherapy sessions. And I think that was probably the point where I was like, oh, shoot, this is really serious. And, I'm a woman. Let's be honest. The first thing when they said chemotherapy was, oh my God, I'm going to lose my hair. Which I did. But I rocked a pink wig throughout my entire treatment. And yeah, just kind of almost became not a different person, but I almost had to sort of enter a character. It was very weird to kind of get me through. Yeah. I had to work all the way through because that was the only way that I had to try to make my life as the same as it always was, as much as I could. I mean, obviously, I was going through treatment, and there was times when I could barely get myself out of bed. Spent a couple of evenings in courtesy of Ipswich Hospital with after all my white blood cells had given up on me. But I'm still working from my hospital bed. There's literally a picture of me with my bald head, with my pajamas on, with all my paperwork surrounding me, because that's just how I had to get through it. But yeah, we're here now, and what are we now? Next year's the big one, because then I'll be 5 years clear. So all touch wood for me, please.
Yes, everybody do it.
Please. But yeah, I don't like to make it my life. Some people do, and they go on to do amazing things. I'm now a trustee of a fabulous charity called Little Lifts, who do care packages for people going through radiotherapy and chemotherapy, and also about to go through surgery. And they're a fabulous charity, and I'm really proud to be a trustee. So I can still give back and help out. But I really also consciously try to not make it a massive part of my life. So I think you can go down a rabbit hole I'm not convinced I'd want to go down.
Yeah. It's number one, it's amazing how you worked your way through that and the amazing work of Little Lifts. And I think this is a big call out to all of our listeners to check yourself, please do that. And we have both male and female listeners, but we have a lot of female listeners, and I would love it if all of you could encourage your friends to do it as well. Like, just spread the word. And I always think, they always say, don't you know what your normal feels like? So you then, if there is anything that doesn't quite feel right, you can get to the doctor and get some stuff caught. And from what you're saying, you going to the doctor that quickly and sorting out was a really good thing.
Oh, that was completely the difference between potential secondary diagnosis. Yeah. It really is. And with secondary diagnosis, you can lead a fabulous life. Of course you can, but you are on treatment for life. It's a very different story. And the difference is going to the doctors. It's simple as that. It's early diagnosis. Yeah. So I really do encourage everyone. I post regularly on my socials, and I have beautiful friends and family who always say to me, I haven't seen your reminder this month. I look for your reminder because that's what makes me go in the shower that night and have a good rummage.
Yeah, a good rummage. I love that. Have a good rummage.
Yeah, I know. Have a good rummage. So yeah, please, everyone, shower tonight, rummage.
Everyone, shower tonight, rummage. And then we're all about, like, how do we make it easy to build these things as a habit? Like, chuck it in your diary, put it in your calendar, have a rummage day once a month or something. Just find a way of making that happen regularly. So massive big shout out to everybody and to the Little Lifts charity who do that amazing work in helping people going through one of the scariest times of their life, right? It's terrifying, I can imagine. So it's amazing that you're a trustee there. What I'm really interested about, though, and I think this is an interesting part of your story, there are some people who would want to disengage from work completely and just focus here. I'm really interested in how you're working, and I've got in my mind this image of you in a hospital bed with a bald head, in your pajamas, with your laptop, doing the work, and everyone else kind of going, why is she working? What's she doing? But actually, tell us a bit about why that was important for you.
I mean, let's be honest, it probably was distraction to a certain degree. I knew that for me to keep my sanity and my mental health in check, I had to continue with as much as my life as I could physically carry on with and mentally. And so that was trying to get through every day as if I would without having a cancer diagnosis. And like I say, that is not easy. I mean, I was I am now very into exercise. I play netball, I cycle, I go to the gym, I like yoga. It's a very big part of my life because I know how much it affects my mental health if I don't do it. So it was very important to me to carry on with the exercise and also the work because I think it gave structure to my days. I'm an operations director, Beth. Of course I love structure. So I think that's the first thing I did. I moved to where I had to have structure, and put that in place as quick as possible. So, and the way I did that was by carrying on as much as I could. And there were days when, that was much harder than others. Don't get me wrong, but I really do think it got me through it.
Yeah. And then going through all of that and then the pandemic hitting. Wow.
Do you know what? I look back and laugh because it was New Year's Eve of 2018 and I wrote this fabulous post about how I had battled cancer and I got through the other end and how 2019 was going to be my year and look out for the comeback, everyone. And then it was like, oh. Maybe not. We're all going to sit indoors and not see each other for God knows how long. But it was a good opportunity to grow my hair back.
Yes.
Under closed doors.
Every cloud has a silver lining.
Exactly. Every cloud. But it was quite. And
as an operations director, hello. That from a business perspective, going from because obviously with the work that you do, that must have been a massive challenge on how do you actually make this shutdowny, furloughy, how do you make your business operations run? What do you do? That must have been a really big challenge for you.
Hands down, without question, the hardest time in my career. Everyone was in the same boat, don't get me wrong, but the business just, there was nothing overnight. They were like, we've got employees, we need to save this, what can we do? It really was, I think I did kind of come into my own a bit there, where we kind of did everything that we could to, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was really hard because I had to let go of some people who I really would class as friends. And I'm still friends with them today, which I hope is a testament to how I dealt with the situation. But it was incredibly tough because we had to do whatever we had to do to have a business to come back to at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of what we did.
Just for people who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about the Paddy and Scott operation, what you actually deliver, so we can kind of get the image of what you might have had to be dealing with?
Yeah, so we supply, our main business side of the business, if you like, is supplying coffee and ancillary products to hotels and restaurants UK-wide. And we also have 2 cafes that we operate ourselves, but we also help other businesses operate a Paddy and Scott's concession, if you like, within their businesses.
Lockdown happens and nobody's going to hotels and nobody's going to restaurants or cafes.
So, yeah, indeed. So we went from a very successful business to no business overnight. No one was ringing the phone. No one wanted any coffee. However, what we did do is very quickly pivot to our, at the time, very sad and lonely and neglected retail website. Because there was a lot of people sat at home wanting coffee. And we look back now and we're almost ashamed and embarrassed that we hadn't done anything with this website, really. We just hadn't really put much focus on it at all. And then all of a sudden it was the thing that was going to keep us alive. It was like all hands on deck to rejuvenate this very sad website. And now it's a masterpiece, it's a thing of beauty. But it was trying to pivot the business completely from supplying wholesale and the people to all being sat at home and trying to develop a website to reach out to people sat at home who are drinking coffee was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, it kind of it's an entire change of business model, right? From like B2B
Yes.
wholesale to B2C individuals in their home buying coffee. Like, there's a very different product. It's a very different beast, isn't it? It's a whole different way of thinking.
Yeah, completely. And the not my bag, I have to say, not my area of expertise, but we all kind of, we were up at all hours researching and doing what we needed to be done to get as much coffee out the door as we could to try
Yeah.
to save or salvage. And I think the key part of our survival, in honesty, going back to people, don't get me wrong, selling coffee to people at home did help, but a lot of it was the relationships we had with our customers.
Yeah.
So rather than everyone going into panic mode and picking up the phone and saying, "You owe me this much, send me the money," because we need our bank account filled as quickly as possible to try and survive, we actually had very practical conversations with both our suppliers and our customers and said, "Look, what's the situation? What can you do? What can we do? Show a bit of willing." And that really made the difference between coming out the other end on what customers you had to work with, because we kept all of our customers and
That's amazing,
we maintained all of our supplier relationships. And I think that really was because we picked up the phone and we had honest conversations about, like, we're all in the same boat here. No one has a clue what's going to happen. So, let's just be sensible and help each other.
Yeah. And that's amazing to come out the other end, isn't it? With all of your suppliers and customers in place, kind of ready to pick up almost where you left off.
Yeah, but the interesting part about all of it, was it gave us a big opportunity, I have to say. I mean, we completely changed the culture of the business coming out of the pandemic, because it kind of sat on we moved offices and there was people that left the business, and we kind of took it as a clean slate.
Yeah.
It was like a rebirth, for want of a better word. And so we took that opportunity to really sit and look at the business and go, right, what do we want to be? What do we want to stand for? And, keep coming back to people and values and culture. And, credit to John, he should be a culture specialist. I mean, he is really, but the transformation in the culture of Paddy and Scott's coming out of the pandemic is nothing short of amazing. It really was. Yeah, great. A real big transformation, and a complete joy to work for.
And tell me now, so we've gone through kind of your career, all the amazing things you've done there, getting to that point, obviously having your diagnosis, working through your illness and your treatment, and working through the pandemic. We're now kind of on the other side of the pandemic. What's bringing you some joy at work now? Because obviously I always find there's loads of joy in working through the tough stuff. When you all pull together and you kind of make some stuff happen, it's like, wow, even though it's tough, it's amazing. How are you kind of keeping that joy now you're maybe more into your business as usual world?
Yeah, it's been really interesting for me because I've had to learn over the past few years to be a leader rather than a manager. I get easily too involved in wanting to control the day-to-day. I think that's just nature of the beast when you're in operations. So coming out of that and then having to become a leader, not a manager, that's been a big learning for me. And it's people, it's culture, it's purpose. With the last few years, we did a leadership meeting a few weeks ago at White Boston Lakes. We do it every year. And we all get together and we all tell each other how wonderful we are, and it's great. it's really. We do some business stuff as well, Beth. Don't get me wrong, but
of course.
we
mainly
really
business, not so much fun.
Yeah, mainly business, but and some of the stories that people had to do a presentation, and everyone had worked so hard on it, and there was a bit at the end where I asked everyone. And it was really off the cuff. I hadn't thought about it at all. And I almost, as I was coming out of my mouth, thought, I don't know if you want the answers to this. But I asked everyone, if I gave them £1 million today, would you leave Paddy and Scott's? And And this is coming from me, who I think if you'd asked me 18 months, or at least definitely 5 years ago, I would have run out of the door.
Yeah.
And every single one of them were adamant in their absolutely not. And I was just like, my gosh. We've got Chrissy who works in our finance department, and she's worked at Paddy Scott's longer than me, and I've been there 9 years now. And she turned around and said she is more proud of working for Paddy and Scott's today than she ever has been. That's it for me. That's my work joy, Beth.
Yeah.
If my team are saying that they won't go out the door for £1 million and they're more proud of the business they work for now than they ever have been, I'm the happiest girl alive.
Yeah. And that really shows the results of all your hard work on actually resetting and re-looking at what does this look like and how do we want it to be and how do we lead it. And I totally get, and I'm sure there's lots of people listening who work in operational or specialist roles who are there going, yeah, the call to control everything is big in me. It's really big. And allowing other people to do those things in their own way that's different to how I would do it is really hard. But actually really the results of stepping properly into a leadership role and being able to allow the culture to be the thing that you focus on and the bigger picture stuff, it does make a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. Like realizing actually, Zoe, rain check, other people are actually better at things than you are. So here's an idea. Let them get on with it and you'll actually get even better results.
It's funny that, isn't it? Allowing people to be great at what they're great at. I don't know. Sounds crazy.
I know. Mental idea. It's hilarious, actually. I was literally in the car with John just yesterday and I said, I don't think I've worked hard for about a year, John. And he was laughing. And then I was like, at the same time, we're doing some really transformational stuff at the moment. John and I want to set up a charity. We've just had a visit over in Kenya that has provided so much fuel in our bellies for want to do more things. And we're going to have the biggest year in the company's history. And I'm sat there saying I haven't worked that hard for a year. So I've nailed it, Beth.
Yeah.
I've decided I've nailed it.
I think that's a really interesting thing. And it happens to a lot of people. And I don't have any evidence for this apart from the conversations that I have, which is with a lot of people, is when you get to the point you are in your career, when you step into those roles, people go, I'm not working as hard as I did before. And it feels weird. And am I doing something wrong? And actually, you are working hard, but you're working differently and you're in a different role and you're in a different context. And what you have to do is you're inspiring the next kind of generation of people who are working hard and working through their careers. And I think it's something where we're not taught about this at any point really in our careers, is we need to reset our success factors and what good looks like now and how we get our, like, what we're excited about. So seeing the transformation and people saying, yeah, they would stay is probably way bigger for you now than whether you've got your operation sorted, because the operation's being sorted by the people. So it's how do you reset that? But I hear this story probably 3 or 4 times a week. Like, I'm not working as hard. What's going on?
It is a bizarre feeling. But you're right. It's not like you're not working hard. You're working differently. And it's really been a kind of like epiphany for me that you can enjoy work. I always kind of felt that. I know it sounds bizarre, but I always kind of, I suppose I was raised that work was graft. You worked hard, and that always came with connotations of kind of, not as much smiling and joy. Yeah. And actually, you can have both, and you should have both, because you're there a long time.
I've got a whole podcast and book based on the idea that you can actually have both. Really so I am with you. But actually, graft can also be joyful, right? The process of working through hard things can be a joyful thing, and the results of working through it. So it's about finding that. And tell me more about this trip to Kenya, because I think it's been, for you, a big point in your career, right? And thinking about the charity and the work that you're doing. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked with the Machumba family over in Meru for a long time now, for 6 or 7 years, and I kept meaning to go out to the farm, but then, cancer and pandemics, they really got in the way.
Funny that.
So, I know, very disappointing. So this year I got to go for the first time. And when, Scott has been out there a few times, quite a lot of people at work have, David and John has been out before. And they come back and they're like telling you all about it. And it's like how fabulous the face changes on faces lighting up. But it's great, don't get me wrong, but there is nothing compared to being out there. I mean, my gosh, if I could bottle that feeling that I had out there and bring it home to our entire company. I mean, me and John and I did a presentation when we got back to the team so they could see what we've been doing out there. But it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. You wish you could bottle it. It's not the same as
the experience.
No, it's really not. To go out there and actually... I mean, I travel quite a lot. I enjoy traveling. My husband travel quite a lot, but it beat any holiday because you really are meeting. You're in the culture. We were welcomed with such open arms by the Majumpa family, and we were dancing with the kids. We were running up and down on the washing tables where the coffee's all dried, and singing songs with them and watching what they do. And it was just. I loved every minute of it. I really did love every minute of it. And it just made it put so much more purpose behind it. Yeah. And I think that was what I was missing a little bit. I was like, what's my purpose here? And that was like, oh, right, okay, well, here we go. Now I found it.
There we go. That's it. Done. Right, now I've got something to focus on.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal trip. Game changer. So lots of fire in the belly to start doing even more amazing things over there. I think the key... for John and I was we'd done a lot of infrastructure work out there. We've built schools, we've built classrooms, we've put windows in classrooms, we've put roofs on classrooms, we've put water feeds in, we've put washing facilities in, toilets, all this great stuff. And to see it actually, with my own eyes was, rather than on a picture, was just something else. However, we really learned over there that, again, people. All comes back to people.
Yeah.
It's like, what do these people actually need? Why are we, but let's start with the fundamentals, shall we? Because there's girls here that can't go to school for 5 days of the month because they don't have access to sanitary ware. So why don't we look at those kind of problems before we build a school hall or whatever it is that we choose to do? Let's do both, Let's not do one for the other, but let's do both. Let's see how we can actually get these kids to the buildings we've built.
Yeah.
And look at those challenges and how we can help there. So that's our kind of next challenge, if you like.
And I'm really fascinated by the whole kind of story of, so you've done the work, you've got the culture right, your operation is working well, your business is doing fantastically, the results are there. And then there's a gap, isn't there? You've done all this work, you've done the transformational stuff. It's like, actually, what's next? And I love the fact that you're getting to think about purpose and something kind of almost bigger than the operation in the UK. It's more about that. How do you support your suppliers? How do you enable this kind of better life for people, which is much, much bigger than what you think about when you think about being an ops director of a coffee company?
Yeah, completely. It's quite scary and intimidating because there's a lot to learn, because you're talking about completely different cultures, countries, religions, and we don't want to go out there and tell anyone to do what, we want them to be able to do whatever they want and help fulfill that in any way that they need, not go out there and go, well, this is how we do it, so we're fabulous. Why don't you just do that? We don't. That's not the idea at all. And there's lots of learnings to be had out there. But if we can do anything to help, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
It sounds like you're going to be getting a lot more learning, and that comes right. Oh, it's like you've done this amazingly. It comes right back to your beginning part about kind of that yearning for learning stuff. Is you're finding your next thing to learn about, to understand, to be able to make better, to be able to help people. So for me, your whole story really kind of links together around those themes and about learning and grafting and finding solutions and making things better.
Yeah, I think I've decided that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. A thirst for learning and improving, and people. I think people always comes back to people and community, and how can we do things better together? Can't do it alone. Together.
Love that. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us and all the things that are kind of bringing you some work joy. I have got some quick fire questions. Are you ready?
Go on.
They're not complicated. I think you'll be okay. Okay. Question 1 is, what is always guaranteed to bring you personally a little bit of work joy?
Going to have to come back to the people. I think when I sit in meetings and hear about the £1 million story and like someone who's worked there for 10 years being more proud now. Joe, our commercial director, he put us in for Suffolk Business of the Year award, and he'd only been with us a month.
Wow.
And we have a company WhatsApp group that we all chip in with various bits and pieces. And this morning, one of the GMs at one of our accounts had messaged Jonathan on LinkedIn and literally to tell him how fabulous Neil is at our warehouse and that he's just the happiest, friendliest person that he's ever met. And that he enjoys it when his team are too late to order their coffee because he gets to go down to see Neil and just be in his infectious happiness, and it makes his day. And that was put on our chat this morning, and I just love it. Which was not quick fire at all, Beth, but I'm here for it.
I know. The question was quick. The answer was perfect. Question 2: what book are you currently reading?
Well, I have a funny relationship with books. I kind of delve in and out of. I can obsessed, read loads, then don't at all. But I'm very obsessed with podcasts at the moment.
Okay, so do podcasts instead. That's fine.
Diary of a CEO, Happy Place, and High Performance.
Yeah,
they're my top 3 that I listen to very regularly. Also started reading a book actually, Professor Stephen Peters' Path Through the Jungle. He was on Diary of a CEO, and I'm very into finding out what makes me tick. Very self-indulgent, I know, but I'm here for it.
Love it. I've actually got that book on my to read pile, which is an ever increasing read pile. So it might just get me onto that one because I loved the Chimp Paradox book, so I was like, this is the next stage, so let's see what we can do with this one. Right, question 3: what's one bit of advice that somebody has given you in your life that you always find yourself coming back to?
Don't be scared to fail. I really struggle with failing, and that then puts me in a comfort zone, and there's no growth in the comfort zone.
No.
So
it's annoying that, but it is true.
I know, it really is. Take risks and don't put a limit on your ambition. That's that's advice I've been given.
Love it. What is one super practical bit of advice that you would recommend our listeners could go and do today or tomorrow or the next day that you think would help bring them a little bit of work joy?
I think this has to go back to the mentor champion. I think it has to be go and find yourself a mentor and or champion. Yeah. Preferably both.
Yeah. Brilliant. And then finally, where can people find out more about you and your work and your business?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Zoe Hill, but also paddyandscotts.shop. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all under Paddy and Scotts, so very easy to find.
Excellent.
Do check out Little Lifts, littlelifts.org. They're doing amazing work. And really do, please, everyone, check. Have a rummage. And also look out for Ambition Unlocked, because that's our kind of working title for the charity that we are hopefully going to be creating.
Brilliant. What we'll do is we'll make sure all of those links are in the show notes so that people can click on straight through and come and find out all about you and your wonderful business and Little Lifts and the Ambition Unlocked charity. I can't wait to hear more about where that heads in the future. Zoe, thank you so much for being a guest today on the WorkJoy Jam.
Thank you, Beth. Pleasure.
A huge thank you to Zoe for joining me today on the WorkJoy Jam podcast. It was great hearing Zoe's story, and I wanted to thank her again for being so open about the challenges that she's had with breast cancer, and to reiterate that point of everyone out there, have a rummage, check things out and get to your doctor if you find anything unusual. It's always worth having that check because early diagnosis is a really, really important thing. So I'm going to help Zoe bang the drum around that particular issue. Please do have a rummage and good old check whenever you can. Make it a regular thing. Thank you also, Zoe, for sharing some of your experience in your career and for talking to us about things like purpose and the things that you are doing as a trustee of the charity Little Lifts and within your organisation, helping to really consider your suppliers, how you can support and help them, and to think about the culture of your organisation and how you make that one where people would rather stay than take £1 million. What a great thing to think about. So thank you, Zoe. For everyone listening, do go and listen to our other episodes. This is season 7, so there's plenty of different people to listen to with great range of career backgrounds, different perspectives. So do go and have a little pick and mix to some of our previous episodes. You can also head to and follow our socials at Create WorkJoy on all of them. And if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about where you get your WorkJoy from, if you head to our website, createworkjoy.com, you will be able to find a freebie. It's called WorkJoy, How Do You Get Yours? Download it, and within a week you could be clearer on where you get your WorkJoy from and where and how you can get more of it. Thanks for listening today.